faith. This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, where we take a glance into comic book movies, blockbusters, indie films, and everything in between. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by my co-host, Devin. And today is the day we are back talking about the Batman. This is our spoiler review. So really quick, that is your first warning. Again, if you haven't read the title of this podcast, that is your second spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the Batman yet, go check out our spoiler-free review that we did with Dibes over at the Suit Up Geeks podcast. And he's actually back with us here today to talk about the Batman. So how are you guys doing today? Again, I mean, we just recorded our other one, so it's all the same. But for conversation's sake, how's everyone's Wednesday? How's everyone's hump day been?
It's been terrific, man. I apologize in advance. I have a lot to talk about here today. I have a lot to get off my chest. That was one of the best movie experiences of my life last night. Our review doesn't drop until a few days from now. I need to talk about the Batman.
Yeah, it's time to spoil.
It is time to spoil. Again, y'all, I'm just going to do, because I'm such a nice person. So that is your third spoiler warning. Again, we're going to be talking about all things the Batman. Yeah, so as Devin said, we're going to be getting into the Batman review. Again, this is your third spoiler warning here for the Batman. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have a lot of fun. You know, Dibes is here, one of the biggest Batman fans in the world. And, you know, I love going back and rewatching pretty much any not old movie, but previous installments, whether it be for comic books, whether it be for like sci-fi movies. You know, I mean, we have Star Wars Day coming up here in May, so it's coming around the corner. So it's pretty much going to be all of Star Wars month. But I always enjoy going back to movies that I love, and for me, especially, it's been a very long time since I've watched the Michael Keaton Batman. It's like literally VHS. Like, it has been a very long time for me. So I'm excited to dive back into that and just celebrate all things Batman, whether it's Batman Day, whether it's a new Batman film coming out. But before we begin today's episode, you can listen to our podcast on podcast platforms around the internet, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Audible, and more. And if you are a new or seasoned listener to the show, we would love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That is Film Optix. Yeah, at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Apologies, y'all. It has been a very long day. My voice is starting to give way, but I'm going to power through it here today. Or you can email us at filmoptix@gmail.com for any movie related questions. So, y'all, we got everything else off our chest for the non-spoiler review, for the spoiler-free review. Are you guys ready to dive back into Gotham and deliver some vengeance?
What becomes more valuable the less you have of it?
Yes, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be right back after this introduction to the Batman.
Bruce Wayne.
Sorry.
I wouldn't be bothering you here, but your people keep telling me you're unavailable. You know, you really could be doing more for this city. Your family has a history of philanthropy, but as far as I can tell, you're not doing anything.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back. That was a little introduction to the Batman, and we are here talking our spoiler review. I'm very excited just to dive on in. But before we do, we're going to read the synopsis here, give you a little bit of movie info for those who don't know much about the film. So the synopsis is as follows. When the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. Again, this is directed by Matt Reeves. And again, it's written by Matt Reeves. Peter Craig and Bob Kane is, of course, accredited for creating the Batman, and stars Zoe Kravitz, Robert Pattinson, Paul Dano, Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis, and Colin Farrell, just to name a few. So, guys, we're just going to kind of just dive into the deep end here. I'm going to pass it over to Dives because he is one of the biggest Batman fans I've ever met in my entire life. Again, met Dives a few times. You know, I think when I met you, when you came down, you were wearing, it was on DC Fandom Day.
Yeah. we were waiting and drinking for the Batman trailer release.
Literally, I came over to Dives' place, and I was like, oh, like, you're watching DC Fandom? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm coming over. Because I'm just sitting there watching by myself. And it was just, man, like, he was sitting there with a Batman shirt on. We're just sitting there, just huddled around his computer, watching all things DC, literally just waiting for the new Batman trailer. Because that's
the trailer that changed everything.
Yeah. And of course, they didn't do it to the very end because they knew if they gave us that trailer, people were going to tune out. But that's all good. We're going to just dive straight in to our spoiler review of the Batman. We'll start with Dive so he can give his initial reactions, of course, with spoilers this time. And then we'll go to Devin, and then I will end for myself. So lay it on us, Dives.
Yeah, that opening intro was just pure perfect cinema for me.
It's legit scary. Like,
dude, yeah, like, this is like one part film noir, one part horror movie. Maybe not less than a part of comic book movie, and maybe even more horror. That first intro, man, where you get like that real impression of how the world of Gotham truly views Batman here in year 2. The way we see these criminals like shaken up, literally shaking in their bat boots when that bat signal is up in the sky, and they're every single corner, every single alley that's dark, they are thinking Batman is lurking behind the corner. That was amazing. I don't think we've ever seen that perspective of Batman in a live action film before. That was a really, really cool moment. And then you have the scene that's stripped right out of 7, where Batman walks onto a crime scene, and, you know, the cops are there calling him freak. From the jump, I was all in. From the jump, like, you knew that you were like in for something completely fresh, something completely original, something like truly stripped right out of the comics onto the big screen. But there's a lot of references in this movie that I could not help but notice. You talk about Chinatown, 2 movies from the 70s, Chinatown and Taxi Driver. Chinatown, the amazing camera work from Chinatown. There's a scene in Chinatown where you have a young Jack Nicholson, and he's in a car in an orange grove, and it follows him on his shoulder. It's a long track from Roman Polanski, I think, is the director. And they stole that right from Chinatown. There's a scene in the Batman where he's in the Gotham City Police Department, and the score by Michael Giacchino, and Batman like shoots his not batarang, grapple hook, and the camera's literally on your shoulder, on his shoulder. You literally feel like that you're wearing the cowl. It is the most immersing feeling of a live action Batman film I have ever been a part of. You literally feel like Batman, and that's just one scene. There's many of those. And you talk about, going back to Chinatown. Chinatown is a movie where, a lot of the main characters are very much flawed. I very much appreciated the part in the Batman where he got the L and the La mixed up. And this is a young Batman. Like, I appreciate that kind of stuff where this is a young, less experienced Batman making mistakes. And then you get to Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver, you look at the Riddler, Paul Dano's the Riddler. You look at Travis Bickle, Robert De Niro's Travis Bickle. Like, there's so many similarities there. You look at Travis Bickle and his descent into madness. The whole point of Taxi Driver is loneliness. And I really appreciate Matt Reeves' take on that to kind of modernize it, and how he kind of uses this kid, Paul Dano's character, and kind of utilizes social media and Facebook and followers. And that was a really fun take. There's very much common ground when it comes to how the city of Gotham, or a 70s porn-laden New York can cripple, guys with social anxieties, and they're responsible, not, who they are. It's society's fault of why, things are happening. And we saw that with Paul Dano's The Riddler, where, he very much clearly implies that, how he was completely abandoned from the Wayne Foundation with his orphanage. And then you get to like Batman Year One. There's another similarity there. You touched on it during our no spoiler review, Christian. You talk about how, making Gotham a character in the film. You could argue that Gotham, the city itself, was one of the main characters, just like we saw in Taxi Driver as well. Batman Year One cements Gotham as this like super corrupted film or city that has corruption from the top to bottom. And I think that's going to be a continuous theme that we'll see in the sequel, which we'll talk about. But I thought, those were just 3 movies right there that really spoke to me. I was watching, I'm like, they were ripped straight out of those movies, and I loved it. And those, again, Matt Reeves deserves so much respect for kind of using those references, but kind of making it his own as well. So that's the first general impression.
Yeah, for me, it's I mentioned in the spoiler free that it's 7 and it's
7.
It's Zodiac. Like
totally.
It's insane how similar they are to this story. Just the inspiration that they took, and I mean, for the Riddler, like I feel like most people their first thought is Jim Carrey, and then to jump to this character, like that's quite the leap.
How great was that scene? Like one of my favorite, like some of my favorite moments in the scenes aren't even like the big,
like the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning is awesome.
It's a jump scare.
When that scene where he's laying on the diner and he sees Batman walk in for the first time, and that creepy smile he gives to the Batman, that is straight horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. Like you said, Zodiac, that was ripped straight from Zodiac, David Fincher's Zodiac. Just like the way Paul Dano just moves his eyes was terrific. His little like mannerisms when he's like upset and he makes like the funny laugh, like that giggle. Pure brilliance. And I'll say it is so good. It is like this much less worse than Heath Ledger's Joker. That's how good this is. And that's the biggest compliment you could give any kind of comic book movie villain.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. For my initial reactions, for spoiler initial reactions, I agree with both of you guys when it comes to the very beginning, like Dice was saying, focusing in on the dark corners of Gotham. It's like these small little teasers, kind of like you're anticipating him coming out, but there's like the music kind of doesn't necessarily build up as much as like it does for like the new Scream movie where Wes is in his own house and they kept like teasing the jump scares over and over and over, like building up the music. But I agree. Michael Giacchino, just playing that score over and over.
The music was just so good.
It fit with like every single scene. And that's what I loved about it so much. And during the very beginning of the movie where, we see Riddler doing his first kill. And I believe that was on Halloween, which is a nod to the Long Halloween. If you haven't watched the animated part 1 and part 2, I would definitely recommend it. It is a very, there's a lot of similarities between the Batman and the Long Halloween, for sure, especially when it comes to the crime serial killer crime killing spree that the Riddler does with a lot of the politicians, and for good reason. There's so many small little details. Everything is connected in a very careful, concise way. That when I saw Paul Dano. I almost pissed myself.
His mask is so freaky.
It's like it's not even super scary. It's just like you can feel his intent. You can feel his aura
and the breathing.
Yeah, the breathing and like even just the fogginess of his glasses, where it's like this dude. There's just something off about this man. And I talked about it in our non-spoiler with, the Batman coming on to the scene for the first time with the Joker-esque face painting scene, which we kind of saw a little bit of that, which Devin mentioned about showing a little bit from the trailers. But I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but the kid with like half the face paint, I'm not sure if you watched season 3 of Titans, Dives, but that was the same kid. He plays Tim Drake in Titans, DC Titans. I was very surprised. Devin, are you able to look up the guy's his name at all? Just because I'm too much on a roll here, but I'm blanking on the guy's name. But when I saw him, I was like, wow, it's Tim Drake from Titans season 3. I forgot the kid's name, but he was one of the guys with the clown mask or the clown face paint who didn't really, you can kind of sense he didn't really want to be there anymore. And, the rest of his posse's kind of like egging him on. And his
name is Jay Lycurgo.
Jay Lycurgo. Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. But it was, I love the intro of this. It's just year 1 or technically year 2 Batman just living out his intents of trying to save the city. And then Catwoman comes in. And it's just this, all these side, I guess you can call them side quests or side adventures, that everything just comes full circle. Everything is connected. And that's really, really what I loved about it. I just, wow. Like I want to see it again, like as soon as possible. The cinematography as well was just breathtaking. Like there's so many, like I want that as my background picture. I want that as my background picture.
This movie has endless posters.
It does. It's, oh my, and I love how amazing, like how much care was put into this, just even from the costumes themselves. Like Colin Farrell as the Penguin, like completely unrecognizable. And I'm like, I want this to just, I want people to see this. It is a bit lengthy, I will say. I didn't necessarily feel the runtime per se, but I will say that there were a few times where I thought the movie was ending and then it didn't, but it kept going. But I think when it did end, it ended on a very somber, melancholy-esque note, which kind of reminds me of The Mask of Phantasm with the relationship between Catwoman and Batman. Catwoman wanting him to leave and go to Bloodhaven, but this is a brand new Batman. Second year in his career, and he's spoken for. He has a city that needs him, and like we saw from Batman Year 1, like how corrupt the officials were from Year 1 compared to the Batman. When they're inside of the club within the club. Was like, wow. It was, I love how we actually saw how corrupt people were. We kind of didn't really see that in the Dark Knight movie, just because Gotham felt more like a downtown, like Chicago or like, for sure. I was like, okay, it's Gotham, whatever. But, like that orange blood red sky that we got during the evening scenes. And it was, and Jeffrey Wright, like we said before, the chemistry and the relationship that Batman and Gordon have in this movie is very, it's kind of like an unspoken bond. A lot of people aren't able to see the good that Batman's trying to do, but Gordon is. And I hope we get, I really hope we get to see more characters like throughout. Like I really like how, obviously the Riddler was the main villain, but we also got a little bit of taste of Penguin. And I think the animated series, or not the series, but the other films do a really good job of kind of, having smaller encounters with other villains that aren't necessarily a part of the major story. Like obviously Penguin is there, but it's not like a fully formed Penguin just yet. But that is something I really admired as well. And I do apologize for rambling again. I'll pass it back over to Dives for you to kind of just open up the floor for everyone. What you guys wanted to bring up, any Easter eggs that you really enjoyed that you noticed from your first watch.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of what you just said and just kind of bring it full circle with, touching on Batman Year 1 and Taxi Driver again, because you talk about how corrupt Gotham was. Like Matt Reeves took Batman Year 1 and went from, 10 out of 10 to 11 out of 10. Like Gotham felt alive. It felt corrupt. And that's what Batman Year One does so well, is it, puts Batman and Gordon in this position where they're facing just giant steep hill climb. It looks ridiculous that they're trying to save a city that's not almost borderline impossible to save. And I thought the Batman did a great job of that. Like throughout this film, you're like, even Catwoman said point blank at the end to Robert Pattinson's Batman, like, what are you doing, dude? Like there's no winning here. And I think that is what Matt Reeves crushed. Batman is not a heroic story. This is not a fairy tale ending type of story. It's a tragedy. Batman, top to bottom, as a story, is a tragedy. And I thought they crushed that. And I thought what really made me love this film even more for me is kind of the Riddler and how this movie ended. The Riddler won. The Riddler basically won in this movie. He didn't get Bruce, but he basically killed every single person he wanted to. He exposed the corruption. He flooded the city, which is a really cool method that I enjoyed. And then on the opposite end, Batman was born of Gotham's demise. Like the more you think about that, like the more it made me appreciate this movie and how it sets up Robert Pattinson's Batman more and more. We have Bruce learning that he needed to become more of what he was doing. He needed to be more of just vengeance. He had to become a beacon of hope. And to see a villain win, but the hero grow because of it and still remain somewhat victorious just speaks volumes to Matt Reeves and his vision of this film. And I'm so glad they did Edward as a character justice, man, pun intended. Just such a unique take and just a fun parallel on, using social media in the Riddler's plans and things like that. Like a lot of this movie felt like it was stripped right out of the comics, but also a lot of it felt stripped right out of the Arkham games, which is really cool. Like the Riddler having all these like henchmen at the very end felt straight out of the Arkham games, and I appreciate the hell.
It also feels like real life too. Like that stuff happens.
Yeah, and this feels like something realistic that could happen. Obviously, I mean, anyone can run around in a bat costume, but it's very it's realistic in a way. I mean, we even see it with with Arkham itself and the
good old Martha Arkham. see, I'm not deep into the comics or any of that. I don't know if that's like known lore or if that's something they made up.
What, his mother's name is Martha?
Arkham.
Oh, Arkham. Yeah. I guess Dives will be the because I really don't read comics that much anymore. It's been a long time, but is that something you're able to confirm, or is that?
I am not. I'm not really sure, to be honest.
So that's very interesting because obviously Arkham is a big deal in Gotham.
Arkham was created, and it's actually its first patient was the creator of Arkham, which is kind of ironic in a way, but like I really like that. I'm not entirely sure. If you do know, definitely let us know on Twitter at Film Optix. Again, that's Optix with an X. But go ahead, Devin. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I feel like we should also just discuss Pattinson, how he did overall. Just that first scene in the subway area, it felt so surreal. Just you hear him first. Every time he comes onto a scene, you hear his footsteps first.
Yeah,
which is very interesting. He might need to work on his ninja skills, but he's not sneaking up on anybody.
Very heavy-footed.
Yeah, but that does add to the scene though, because you just know he's coming, and that's why they're so scared.
And Robert Pattinson's performance is why I think this is the best Batman movie, period. You nailed it, Christian. Like The Dark Knight, as terrific as it is, it's like 50-50 Batman Joker. This movie, a big reason why I love Mask of the Phantasm so much is because it understands Bruce Wayne and it understands the responsibility and the sacrifices Bruce has to take to become Batman. And you saw that kind of a comparison here. Like the Riddler literally points out, like, that's not like Bruce Wayne is not you. Like the Batman is you. That's the real you. Yeah. And that's kind of why I love this movie so much. Like Robert Pattinson crushes it. Unlike Ben Affleck, who I thought was a good Batman, I loved Robert Pattinson's portrayal of a young Bruce Wayne. Like he still looks traumatized. He still looks traumatized in so many scenes in this movie. And I thought it really added weight to his character. There's a scene in this movie that I really connected with. It was a scene in the beginning where he's staring at that orphan who just lost his father. I think the mayor just got killed by the Riddler. And he's staring at him. And that scene alone was probably more effective than having an entire 10-minute clip of his parents dying and reimagining going through that process.
I'm so glad they did not do that.
So well done.
Yeah, I'm so glad they didn't go through the whole, obviously touch on it, but I really enjoyed just this is probably my favorite live action Batman suit. And it's obviously,
I was gonna say, I think the suit is the best,
it's awesome.
By a lot.
Yeah.
it's awesome
because even the way how they what they decided with the costume design, obviously what everyone's joking saying, oh it's emo Batman, but it's Batman, Bruce Wayne is not a very happy person because literally his entire career as Batman, he's controlled by his parents from the grave, 100%, and it traumatized him as a kid, and it's something he will. It is one of those events in someone's life that they'll never get over. It's similar to, I guess, of recency of what I've watched with Rue on Euphoria when she loses her father. She goes through this whole addiction to drugs and whatnot, but that is a moment in Rue's life that she will never emotionally recover from, much like with Bruce Wayne losing his parents. It is something he's never going to forget. It is why he is Batman, so that he can essentially, try to make Gotham a better city in a different way than what his father would have went, probably with more the political route. But, we've seen that time and time again with, even just good-hearted cops or good-hearted politicians. They get nicked off in Gotham. And it's kind of like the Ned Stark effect. Oh, man, everyone loves Ned Stark in Game of Thrones season 1. I'm sorry if you haven't watched it, but he dies. And everyone's like, oh, my God, the tried and true character of this entire TV franchise is dead within the first season. So who do we root from there? And it's kind of the same way with Gotham when, they're constantly looking for a new beacon of hope. And Batman is there no matter what the odds. I really loved how troubled he looked, how Robert Pattinson was able to portray that troubled yet distracting look with with Batman. And it's even the mark around the eyes. I thought that was really nice touch when he puts on his cowl, because you're actually able to see his eyes better than, just having we're going to have the cowl and it's going to kind of cover around your around your eyelids and whatnot. I feel like it was probably a better decision on that front for sure. And I absolutely just loved it. But I'm sorry, Devin, I did not mean to cut you off again. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, I feel like when you're discussing a Batman portrayal, there's kind of 3 tiers to a performance. There's obviously Batman, there's Bruce Wayne, in private, and then there's the public facing Bruce Wayne. That those are the kind of the 3 tenets of what the character is all about. For me, I feel like obviously he nailed the Batman portion because he looks amazing. He's got good physicality ever since that first trailer where he's crunching bones. But for me, I wasn't a huge fan of his Bruce Wayne because I feel like he didn't do much to differentiate between the two. He's just kind of sulking and being a bit angsty as Bruce Wayne. I also don't love that he's not very philanthropic in this movie. He's not helping out the city. He's kind of giving up on his family's legacy there.
Yeah, and let's actually move on. Let's turn the wheel and go over to the as I mentioned before with our non-spoiler review. As much as we have been gushing about talking about the Batman for the last 32 minutes, there are always there's always room for error. So let's kind of go over the things that didn't necessarily work for us. And I think Devin kind of started it off a little bit perfectly. When it comes to Bruce Wayne, obviously, like we mentioned before, like the Bruce Wayne in private and the Bruce Wayne in public are two different faces, but obviously the real Bruce Wayne is Batman. I do understand where you're coming from, him not being as philanthropic. I'm not entirely sure, since this is an earlier Batman, if he has decided to go down that route yet or not, because I feel like he is still trying to figure things out on his end and how to play the part on both sides. Because the newly elected mayor, she had mentioned that, oh, you know, like your parents are so philanthropic, you know, giving all this money, and we've seen that with Christian Bale's Batman, you know, just throwing fundraisers for like Harvey Dent and whatnot.
I really like the Christian Bale Bruce Wayne portrayal.
Yeah, I did too.
Pretty perfect.
Yeah, but let me pass it over to. I'll give my thoughts last, but I'll pass it over to Dive so he can kind of give his thoughts on what didn't exactly work for him for the movie.
It's such a tiny complaint, but I did feel like Alfred kind of got cast aside in this movie. I thought he was excellent. Who played him? It was
Andy Serkis.
Andy Serkis. I thought it was great. I love the kind of fresh take on Alfred. You know, he's him and, you know, Bruce are still working it out, man. Like they're still very much in that healing process still.
Those daddy issues.
Yeah, big time. And
like 13 years or something since he had been in town. Yeah.
There's still like very much like issues going on between those two. And I really enjoyed that dynamic, especially at the end when they came together. You know, that scene where they held hands, and you know, Bruce was not ready to lose pretty much the only person in his life, and probably vice versa. So I love those two kind of having that moment. But outside of that, that's all I got. I love everything else.
No, you're totally fine, man. You're good. I do want to piggyback off the Alfred thing. I do wish we would have gotten a little bit more of Andy Serkis, but that scene where he gets hospitalized, there's so many build up moments in this movie. I'm like, I was just like glued. I'm like, holy crap, what is going to happen next? Like, I do not know what's going to happen next. And of course, when you find out with like Catwoman and how she's kind of been canoodling with the politicians, and there's the girl who steps when Bruce Wayne comes out into the light, the girl who steps out with Falcone, I think it was, or was it
yeah, Falcone.
Yeah,
I love the reveal that he's her dad.
Yeah, I was like, oh wow, I am your father type moment. But I thought it was amazing. Like the woman who stepped out, like I could have sworn that was Zoe Kravitz. Like they did such a good job of duping the audience. And then, you know, Bruce is kind of like wants to make sure, like, is it her? Like it's like 95% sure that it's her. And it turns around to somebody else. And it's like, holy crap, like could have fooled me. Wow.
I also really like that Alfred had a function in this movie. Like he's beyond just a mentor. He's beyond just like, you know, getting him a sandwich and a drink. You know, I love that idea that he's cracking these ciphers and helping kind of Bruce along his way of self-discovery. That was really, really cool. Like
kind of like
what
Lucius
a father needs to do. Like he's not his father, but a father needs to let him, you know, go through whatever Bruce is dealing with. And, you know, he had to give him his space. And I really love that dynamic.
Yeah. And also it's more of like you guys kind of touched on, you know, Alfred needs Bruce as much as Bruce needs Alfred, because they literally are the only family they have left. And you see, I mean, you've seen it time and time again, how fond Alfred was of Bruce's father. And you see in the Dark Knight trilogy, it was saying, you know, like you have a duty, you have told you have a legacy, even with the cufflinks. In this movie, it's amazing. He's like, oh, like you can't go out like without cufflinks, and he's like, take mine type thing. And it's I really love their dynamic. I really wish we would have got a little bit more of that, but it's man, oh man, I can't. I will say there's one other I do like. I know it's around 2 hours and 55 minutes long. I do believe I wish it was a tad shorter, because the pacing, like it did, like I said, it felt like it was going to end a few times, but then it's like, oh, like, oh, there's more, and it's like, okay, and that's fine. I feel like the pacing towards the end was like a little, but then again, I need to rewatch it again to kind of get my full thoughts and kind of just seep into it, because a movie like this, you can't just watch once and say, oh yeah, it's amazing, and then like never watch it again. Like this is something, you know, buying day one Blu-ray, whatever. And I'm just gonna, I really hope we get some nice IMAX scenes in there as well. I'm not sure if this was shot in IMAX altogether, because I know they do format some movies for IMAX screens, but it's not necessarily shot for that. But I guess I wanted to ask you guys, what did you think of Colin Farrell as the Penguin and his role in this movie?
It's insane how he looks. Like, I don't even want to know how long that takes. I thought he nailed the voice though.
Can we talk about the car chase scene? Like that, even from the
that's
trailer.
One of the scenes I mentioned where I wish that wasn't in the trailer. Just the part where it comes out of the flame. Like,
yeah. He was like, oh, I got you. And then, I mean, it really reminds me of the car chase scene in Batman Begins when he finally gets the Batmobile. But I think I like this Batmobile way more.
The first appearance is that got the most reaction in my theater. Just when it starts up and it just rumbles your entire body.
Awesome. The audio was just like, and again, seeing it in IMAX, it's like you really feel like you're like right behind this car about to just take off like a freaking rocket.
How about that part when Gordon and Batman interrogate Penguin, and then they just leave him there cuffed, and he's like,
yeah, there's actually a surprising amount of like little jokes humor in there.
Yeah.
He just like waddles around, and I do appreciate the twist that he wasn't the rat. That was a really cool moment. But yeah, Colin Farrell crushed it, man. He looks, and he acted like a young Joe Pesci in Goodfellas to me. That was like my vibe.
Yeah, and
we're getting a spinoff series seemingly.
Yeah, I heard about that. And also for Gotham PD, aren't we? Or is
a Jim Gordon Gotham type of series is rumored as well.
That would be pretty interesting. As I would love a good Jim Gordon Gotham series, because like we mentioned, you know, we keep going back to Batman Year One. Like Batman Year One is just I would say it's more of a Jim Gordon movie if anything else, because it really focuses
100%.
on him moving to Gotham and just seeing how sideways everything is with the commissioner that is in charge as he gets there, and him starting off as a lieutenant, which is amazing. But I feel like we haven't really talked about Zoe Kravitz as much as Catwoman. So give me your guys' thoughts on that. We'll start with Dives and we'll go over to Devin, and then I'll end it.
Unbelievable sexual chemistry between her and Robert Pattinson. Unbelievable.
And between her and me, between the screen, I could feel it between the screen.
Because I love that she didn't give a shit about Batman's intentions and MO. She was independent. She was strong. She said what she wanted. She was awesome. Just another kind of like way that will mold Batman moving forward. Yeah. I just loved it. She was such a good character. You were rooting for her when she was like at the end there trying to kill Falcone. Like you definitely felt the emotion there. Mm-hmm. She was awesome.
She was a scene stealer. Like there's a couple of lines she has that are the most memorable of the movie, and just I love how she mentions, of course, she has 9 lives, and you can kind of interpret that as like you can see when she's switching between wigs, you can see like different lives she takes on to get through this terrible city and underground. It's just kind of cool to see that.
Batman Year One vibes, kind of like same prostitute type of thing situation going on. Batman Year One vibes at the beginning when you see Robert Pattinson narrating at the beginning, like kind of like thinking in his head. Mm-hmm. That's how Batman Year One starts.
Yeah.
Screaming Batman Year One.
Yeah, for sure, Devin. You definitely got to check it out. It's on my Vudu, so you got access to it. So
it's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's only an hour long. Like it literally only is like an hour long. So it's much. It starts off as a good. I mean, I kind of wish we would have gotten more, to be honest. But
the ideas are really good. It could have been better.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mainly watched for Gordon's story because that was definitely the most interesting part there. But so I guess we haven't really talked too much about Easter eggs, I feel like. So is there any?
I guess we should talk about that Joker guy.
Yeah, let's you know what? Yeah, and I wanted to find a way how to bring him up. I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. Me and Devin talked about it, and actually talked about it a little bit with Dives. So we'll start with Devin, then we'll go to Dives, and then I'll end it out.
Yeah, we talked about it last night after seeing it. I mentioned how for me it feels a little bit early to get another iteration of the Joker. But then the more I sat on it, and then the more I think about the casting, the more excited I got. Especially to see a young Joker, which is something we don't see very often. His voice and his laugh just sounded so young and spry. Like he's got a lot of evil left ahead of him.
Spring in his step. I honestly don't feel like the Joker ever lost the spring in his. He always seems so chipper at times.
And I also love the idea of a Joker Riddler team up, which seems like it might be the direction they're going.
Yeah. I fully agree. I'll get my thoughts last here, but we'll move over to Dives. What were your thoughts about them introducing a new Joker?
Not expecting it at all.
Really? Okay.
No, man.
Yeah, I was definitely not expecting it either in this movie. I was the second one, maybe, but not this one.
Yeah, I was full on expecting Court of Owls. That I thought that, from the trailers was a lock. I still think we're going to go down that direction.
It could be the next one.
Yeah, I still think we're going to go down that direction with another villain, but 100% the Joker was not on or in the back of my mind whatsoever. I dug the laugh. Did it feel a little forced? Probably. Am I complaining about it? Absolutely not. I thought the laugh. I only saw it once. I need to hear it again. I need to see this.
It's also weird hearing it without seeing him.
Yeah, and it's full Arkham. It from what the vibe looks like. It is full Arkham, which makes me hope that we're going to see more of a fantastical approach to the sequels. Like, let's go like full Arkham with Clayface. Let's go full Arkham with different kind of villains that aren't so grounded. Let's kind of separate ourselves from Nolan's verse, But I enjoyed it. I did. It wasn't like, for some reason, as much as I love the Joker, it wasn't a aha moment for me. Like, it was kind of like it threw me off completely.
And for those who don't know, it was Barry Keoghan who was playing that Joker. It's interesting because in the IMDb page, he's like the fourth highest billed actor. And they have his character name as Officer Stanley Merkel. So I looked that up, and apparently that was one time Commissioner Gordon's partner in the comics.
That was the first thing I did when the credits hit.
Yeah,
I straight Googled who the hell is Joker.
Yeah. So for Barry Keoghan, for those who don't know who he is, he played Druig in Eternals, in Marvel's Eternals.
Great actor.
Yeah, really great actor. So, and there was speculation because I believe he has a brother who kept like saying that he was going to be the Joker in the new Batman movie. And I don't know if anyone really like paid attention to that or not. I'm like, yo, what if he's like actually in it? But like it really kind of was like a mid-esque credit scene. There is a post-credit scene.
Don't stay for it. Do not stay for it. I stayed and I hated wasting that 15 minutes.
Yeah, I will say it was a bit of a letdown for waiting there for like 15, 20 minutes.
It's like either have one or don't have one. Don't do that.
Yeah, or just, hey, like I really enjoy, I think movies, especially big blockbuster franchises, will let us know ahead of time. It's like, hey, like there is a mid-credit scene, so stay for that. But then, like there's nothing else after, because sometimes, but like I kind of go back and forth because it is like, the cinephile and he's like, oh, like there has to be something else. Like you stay until the very, very end. And sometimes there is something really, really cool, because I completely missed the post-credit scene from Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like I thought it was just done. That was it. I was like, oh, wow, that was a really good movie. And it's left. Like I obviously stayed in my seat for the Batman. I believe me and Dives were talking about this earlier. Like as you said, like where do we go from here with the Batman? Do we get a more close knit, like Arkham styled, you know, like a Gotham within a Gotham, like all of Gotham's crazies, not like gallivanting around the town, but in one like dangerous location where it kind of how is in the video games. Obviously, you know, we don't really see Joker's face, but I mean, I kind of understand people are a little bit tired of the Joker, but like the Joker is just as crazy as Batman, but like Batman's just like a smidge little bit more sane. Like he obviously has ethics, but they're both messed up in their own way. And it's I get it. You know, this is like Spider-Man and Doc Ock, like all over again. Like that is the villain. Like everyone loves a good Joker. And I think if we do get a sequel, if he plays a part within this coming up sequel, if we do get one, I think he'll do a really good job. I think the last time we saw like a young Joker was in the Gotham series.
Yeah, it was good. Cameron Monaghan, I think, or something like
I believe.
that.
Yeah. He and he also played. He was the Jedi that you play in Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, terrific.
But I don't like. Even towards the end of this movie, is, you know, and we haven't really even touched on the third act as much anymore. But you know, the Joker literally, just like we kind of mentioned before in the spoiler, not in the spoiler-free review, like, you know, it's Riddler. There we go. The Riddler is pretty much won. No, we said it earlier for this one. The Riddler kind of won when it came to everything. Like, hey, he's locked up, but it's like his plan is still in motion.
I love how in the beginning of the movie, Batman calls himself Vengeance, and Catwoman like mockingly calls him Vengeance throughout, and then towards the end he kind of backs away from that because he is growing as a character and realizes that vengeance does not change your past.
Dude, I'm so glad you brought that up. Like one of my legit favorite moments here was at the end, where you see kind of this like loving shot of Batman just like saving ordinary people. Like he literally just went through hell and back. He saved Catwoman, and then he's, you know, saves the people down in the flood, and then he's helping. Like that's how the movie ends, and it is just such a heroic moment where the people now see Batman as the symbol of hope. That was awesome. Like there's so many low key moments of this movie. That's another one.
Okay. Did you have any other low key moments you wanted to bring up that come to mind? Oh man, you brought notes.
Yeah. We touched on a lot of them, to be honest.
Okay.
The Batmobile scene was rocking.
Mm-hmm.
We already touched on that.
It felt so real. I wonder if that was practical or if there was any CGI in that, because it felt really real.
It did feel. I mean, obviously, you know, you get the small little thing where, you know, there's a close up of Batman like riding on his motorcycle and whatnot. But going back to what you guys said about, you know, towards the end where, you know, Riddler has flooded the city from the inside. When when Batman goes to kind of just help out the ordinary people, he reaches over to, I believe it was like the newly elected official, but then he reaches over to the kid who lost his father, and he kind of just, it really is just a, hey, you know, like I know I'm, you know, this kind of person who strikes fear to his victims, but like him being just a ordinary person trying to do good, trying to do a good deed. You know, no flashy effects, no flashy, you know, gadgets. It's just him, you know.
Vengeance will not help you in the future.
Yeah.
That's what he's realizing. I'm surprised we didn't see Batman killing. I thought for sure that was like a good bet. This movie would have been about that. Like Batman's kind of realizing and adopting that rule.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
We'll leave that to Bat flick.
Yeah.
Well, we even get that with Under the Red Hood. Like the entire movie, at least the third act, is all about, you know, why Batman hasn't killed the Joker yet for what he did, what he did to Jason Todd. So it's very I like, you know, and people have their different opinions about it, because I believe Keaton technically does kill people in those movies from what I remember. But it's, you know, there was a time where Batman did kill, like in the comics, and then it kind of became a rule. later on where, hey, like we're trying to appeal to the masses, and it's a good rule to follow. But I do agree with you, Dives. I thought we were going to see at least some type of like indirect murder, like we saw in Batman Begins, where he doesn't save Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
Literally leaves this man to die. I'm like, okay, you didn't kill him, but you did leave him. You did indirectly cause his death. Like, I mean, he does save him the first time. When everything goes sideways in that film, but I was like, okay, I guess that's a way to get around it. Like, he did not, single-handedly in first person kill this man, but like you knew what was going to happen. But I kind of do agree how, I like how it didn't show him killing, but at the same time, I feel like we would have gotten at least one. Well, I guess we kind of almost got one close death with the one of the henchmen of the Riddler, where Batman just starts going off and he punts like the adrenaline.
They're flying. Yeah, they're falling off like 80 feet, 100 feet in the air. They're definitely dead.
Yeah,
I think was that henchman the one from earlier at the funeral where he said he wants to kill?
I think so. I believe so. But yeah, like you see Batman, just almost going to town, and then who stops him? Jim Gordon. Essentially, I thought he almost.
It was so cool seeing him take that adrenaline. Like, that was badass.
That was awesome.
It was also awesome seeing him punch the crap out of Jim Gordon. When I really want to talk.
I thought you were gonna pull your punch. Oh yeah, I did.
All right, that's an underrated moment. Another low key great moment.
That, and when the official is taken by the Joker and he has the beeping cell phone and he was trying to extract information, and then like that was probably one of my favorite scenes. Like just pure. Sorry, go ahead.
And Catwoman, when she decided she was like, she didn't care. Like she's ready to cross that line, and she killed that guy that was involved with killing her friend. Mm-hmm. I love that moment from Catwoman. Like she didn't give an F.
Yeah,
she was ready. She was ready to go.
Yeah, really. There's so many small little moments in this, and it is all just builds up to this grand movie. I can't wait to see it again, to be completely honest. It just gives me such a Batman high, like when Spider-Man No Way Home came out, like I rewatched it's all the Spider-Man films there are. Obviously there's way more Batman films than Spider-Man films, but it just gives me that same adrenaline rush. Like Batman's like my second favorite superhero like of all time. I mean, I have this Batman mug here I've had for forever. I have multiple Batman shirts that I'm wearing right now, and it's just like, man, it's Batman. Like, I love how merciful he can be, but within this movie, you really get to see the inside of Batman's psyche and the relationship. Again, I really wish we'd gotten a little bit more with Alfred, but that scene kind of wrecked me when he's trying to call Alfred, like, don't, open the package. And the Riddler figures out that he's Bruce Wayne. The man says nothing. He's like, you can't get away your position. He's like, just, he's like, Bruce. I'm like, oh man.
Do we think that Riddler knew that Batman was Bruce Wayne? Because I've been
from the beginning.
I was flipping back and forth too, because it's not confirmed.
Yeah, I thought no, then I thought yes, then I thought no. I'm still in that like 50-50.
Maybe. I mean, I feel like Riddler had,
because there's that point where he flips during that dialogue and he says, we did this together.
Exactly.
Yeah. He kind of has like this weird notion in his head that like, oh, this and this and this is going to happen. And then and again with the audio, I really like how they changed when Batman's like banging on the glass. Because in the trailer, I couldn't hear a word he was saying, like whatsoever. It was like very muffled. But then I was like, okay, they fixed that in the movie. I was like, thank God.
That was a really cool twist that Riddler thought Batman was his ally.
Yeah.
And he thought he was leaving clues not to taunt him, but to help him cleanse Gotham. That was a really cool twist that I did not see coming, because usually that's not the case.
No, not at all. I think it all just falls into how sick and desensitized this Gotham is to all of this crime and violence. You know, it's just automatically assumed that everyone's trying to get a leg up on somebody else. And it's, you know, like people know that things have to change, but it's like, you know, high hopes and, you know, good thoughts and like sometimes even good deeds don't really help this city that is forever just on its last leg. And it's kind of like, you know, you're I don't know, playing Elden Ring or any kind of like From Software Demon Souls game where you're on the brink of death and you have like a potion that'll maybe bring back like 10 to 15 health back, but like you're alive, but you're barely breathing.
That's what Taxi Driver is all about. I don't know if you guys have seen Taxi Driver. Like at the end,
I saw Joker. I guess that kind of
yeah, it's almost the same thing. But at the end of Taxi Driver, spoiler warning, you know, he kills these pimps and prostitutes and stuff, and he's Robert De Niro's character is legit crazy throughout like the majority of the film, and at the end of the movie, you know, the public, which is just, or society, which is just obsessed with violence and sex. They make him out as a hero, and that we see that with kind of what happens with the Riddler. A lot of the same kind of things, which is
even
really
in the Joker when he, you know, after the whole Robert De Niro scene, when that scene was actually taken a little bit from The Dark Knight Returns, when the Joker goes on the show and kind of just lights up everyone. I will say,
like, we live in a society, Christian.
We live in a society. I was like, no, it's him again. What a joke. I will say, if there was one twist, or if there was one thing I really like, as much as I love, you know, the Batman of this film, when it comes to Batman's villains, I want to see another Mr. Freeze.
Period.
I want to see a Poison Ivy. Like I want, like we've gotten a new Penguin, and I think hopefully, you know, with that they start doing more things with that. But I want to see more of, you know, even Calendar. I want to see Batman Hush on the live action, not the live screen. Sorry, live action. There's so many other. I want to see another live action Robin on the screen. I really hope that maybe, just maybe, you know, if we do get a trilogy with this, with Matt Reeves, hopefully at the helm of all three, and him coming back for writing as well, because I think the dialogue was fantastic. I really hope we get to see more of Batman's villains that we just haven't. Like, when's the last time? I mean, I guess you could say we've seen Nightwing and Titans, but I don't really count that. Because like I want to see, like,
don't count Titans.
No,
please.
I want to see Batman and Robin like wrecking stuff on the streets.
Young 13-year-old Robin will be awesome.
Yes, that's what I want to see. Whether it's, you know, Damian, whether it's, you know,
the kid from Euphoria.
yeah,
he's got some time now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think Matt Reeves and Mr. Freeze is just a perfect match. Just you have a sympathetic villain that would just be amazing on the big screen. Clayface is another one that I absolutely love. It's a shame we've never seen Clayface, but the Court of Owls.
I'm always down for Scarecrow.
Scarecrow is
we didn't get much Scarecrow in the Dark Knight trilogy.
Real Scarecrow, like real, just like nightmare.
Toxin in your face. You're having nightmares.
I mean, bring back Cillian Murphy. That would be great. But
bring him back. Sure, he's great.
Yeah.
Court of Owls is definitely going to happen. Like if this was,
I hope so.
if this movie is about the corruption of Gotham on the surface level, like Court of Owls, we're going to like really deep dive into that. And the fun part about all that is Mr. Freeze does have a connection with Court of Owls.
Yeah.
So I think there could be, you know, that could be the direction.
And then that could tie into the Waynes too, with their possibly sketchy past, possibly, according to Alfred, not sketchy past.
Yeah.
I think there's
a lot to dive into there.
For sure. It's there's so many avenues they can take. I hope that, you know, if we do get another trilogy, it's not just all focused around the Joker.
I agree.
So it's, you know, there's so many other villains out there that we haven't even tapped into. And I'm not saying it has to come all at once, but like, I mean, even when I think we're still getting that new Batman animated series, aren't we? I believe that they showed at DC Fandom. So I haven't heard too much from that, but I mean, it really seems that, you know, when it comes to other villains with Batman, they really tend to shine more on the animated side. And I get it, but I mean, could you just like imagine like this a new Poison Ivy played by my gosh, just name anybody.
I would be honestly, all right, so here's my take on Poison Ivy, and I love Poison Ivy. If we get Poison Ivy not with Harley Quinn, I'd be pretty pissed off. That's the movie I've been waiting for years.
Yeah, so there's so many avenues they can take with the Batman, and I hope we get to see a new avenue we haven't gone down, and it definitely feels like so far we've gotten something new, we've gotten something special. It's not the same old you know, type of regime where it's like, oh, you know, it's the origin story and blah 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 blah. Like this is kind of like him coming straight out of his origin story and starting off from like, you know, like year 2, like Halloween on October 31st, and just moving from there. And like I said, the horror elements were, my God, so freaking good. It's insane. But we have been talking here for a while, so let's actually close out here. Before we actually do, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we seal the deal?
No, man, go see this in IMAX. 100% see this in IMAX, man. It'll shake you a little bit. It's
this is the first 5 minutes, man. Like I said,
man, I need to give some props to Michael Giacchino. The film score was absolutely terrific, from the low beats to the high beats, like just like that, you know, Batmobile scene. Like his score in so many of these scenes is pumping, and I'm going to be obsessed with that for many months. That's all. Like I'm a big film score nerd, and I'm going to be listening to that Giacchino's. It's definitely one of his top scores he's ever made. Yeah,
it like we had said before, it's so it fits with like almost every single scene, just like little snippets of it here and there. But it's like it really. Like this feels like the live action version of Batman the Animated Series. Like I said before, you know, the blood orange sky, and how, you know, like it's, I mean, not so much as red, you know, we see a lot of red within the trailers, but you know, it's Catwoman and Batman just like staring out into the distance with like this blood orange sky. It's like, man, it's so mesmerizing, and that's what I love about it.
The action scenes are amazing, but even the slow beats, when you know things are slowing down, you have that like Zodiac-esque aerial shots of the Riddler doing his thing, you know, murdering people in cars and stuff. Oh, it's so well done.
The tape, I'll always freak out with tape now. It's just like, I was like, my God, he was ripped. Like it's really hard to rip duct tape. I'm not sure if you know this. You got to give it a nice like, you know, push, like a nice like zing, but like he was just taking it off like it was some random Scotch tape. I'm like, that's duct tape, buddy. that's the good stuff, the thickest of all tapes.
Well, maybe he has some experience doing that. I guess so. But that concludes our spoiler review of the Batman. Again, Dibes, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a It was such a pleasure and such a joy to have you on, talk about all things Batman. Let's pass it over to Dive so he can let everyone know where they can find him on the internet and what's coming up on his podcast. Awesome. Check us out at the Suit Up Geek Fix YouTube channel. Check us out on Twitter at the Suit Up Geeks. Our review will be going down on Saturday, whatever day that is, Saturday night. We are getting ready for Moon Knight. That is going to be so much fun. We'll be doing weekly episodes of that. I've got a Batman movie trivia going down tomorrow night, Thursday, March 3rd. Cannot wait for that. I've got legit like 5 pages of Batman trivia.
See, he lied. No, he was like, I don't have that much trivia. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do well. I'm not going to do well at all. But like I said that about Harry Potter, but it's like, I mean, not saying that it's just, it's Harry Potter. Like I had to come with the facts. I had to come prepared. I was like, I just watched these early last year. You know, it will be time for another rewatch here soon. But yeah, so Saturday, well, by the time this is actually out, your live stream will already be up. So
true, yeah.
I'll either be reigning supreme on Twitter or I'll just be another loser, which is fine. But yeah, March 5th, Saturday, March 5th is when that had live streamed. So definitely check that out over on Suit Up Geeks podcast. All the links to where you can find Dives and Suit Up Geeks will be in the episode podcast notes down below. So for us, what is coming up on the podcast, you might ask? Actually, I'm sorry, we never really got into ratings. So let's backtrack here for a second. I'll start with Devin, go to Dives, and I'll end with it. Devin, what would you give rating of your first time watch on the Batman, and what is your favorite Batman movie?
Yeah, I think this is a great entry. It definitely belongs up there with the greats, obviously. I haven't really considered rankings too much yet, but I think Dark Knight still tops it for me as of now. It's still very early, but
yeah.
For my rating, I had a few small issues overall. I mentioned I wasn't a huge fan of the Bruce Wayne portrayal. And I felt like some of the dialogue was a bit like hand holding for the audience.
Yeah,
like
exposition.
There's a couple lines where Gordon's like, a penguin has wings. And then Batman's like, a falcon also has wings. It's like, okay, guys, we get it. We understand what birds are.
That was probably the
Talon also has wings. Maybe the Riddler was referring to the Court of Owls.
There's a lot of winged creatures in this universe.
A lot of flightless birds.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna give it like a 91. Just super solid. Had a few issues, but just a great entry and everything I was hoping for from Matt Reeves and crew.
Okay, Dives, what about you?
Yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. And if you follow me on our channel, I never give 10s. Ever. This is a 10. This is my number one Batman movie of all time. This is a Batman movie. And I just loved it to death, man. This is a movie I'm going to be watching so many times. I already feel bad for my wife. No, I don't.
Hopefully she likes it.
I'm going to just watch this. It's
if she's
3
listening,
hours.
he didn't mean
that. Yeah, she's downstairs. Batman, my number 1. Dark Knight, my number 2. Mask of the Phantasm, my number 3. Batman Begins, my number 4. And The Dark Knight Rises together is my number 5. That's how I'd rank my top 5. But this is just a thoroughly enjoying film. It's everything I've ever wanted. Like, I feel like this movie was made for me. Like, ever since I was a kid, I wanted a dark take on Riddler. I swear to God, I've been saying that. This is it. And,
yeah. It has been more of a playful thing for the Riddler for a few years, for sure.
And for it to deliver just takes it over the top for me. For me, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. For me, I did give it a 5 out of 5 on my first rewatch, but again, I feel like this also includes like video games and stuff when the like Last of Us or something like that gets like a solid 10 out of 10. That does not mean the film or the video game. In this case, the movie is not perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect movie, no matter if we're slaves to the franchise or not. It's every single movie has, its flaws, but I am giving it a 5 out of 5. Like I said, it is not perfect. Like I really wanted to see more of the relationship between Bruce and Alfred. I wish we got a little bit more with Penguin, and I do feel like it could have been maybe shaved off like maybe 20 minutes, but not saying that it was long. It was just the pacing was a little bit iffy, but again, that's not my first watch of seeing this. I still give it a 5 out of 5 because it is that enjoyable of a movie, flaws and all. And I feel like a lot of people kind of have this preconceived notion like, oh, if it's like 100%, that means that, nothing's wrong with it. The editing and, the visuals and the costume and the makeup and the cinematography is like flawless. And it's like, well, there is no perfect movie. Like even my favorite Spider-Man movie in the world that has flaws, but 5 out of 5 for me. I can't wait to see and hope that we get a trilogy with this 100%. So with all that being said, what is coming up on the podcast for us over here at Film Optix, you may ask? Like I said before, we do have our spoiler free review of the Batman. So if you want to hear our first initial thoughts about that, definitely go check that out over on the podcast. We recently reviewed Uncharted, as well as The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, where we had Nicole Ackman from Next Best Picture and JD Duran from In Session Film come on to talk about Part 1 of the Mockingjay. So we will be closing out that Franchise Revisited series in April with part 2. So definitely check that out. And I believe we actually are going to be taking a bit of a break from the Franchise Revisited just for a little bit, just because there are other things that we have in the pipelines that we kind of want to try out for the podcast. So just not like a super long break, just, we did Harry Potter, then we did The Matrix and The Hunger Games. So we kind of want to take a bit of a breather and do a few new things with the podcast on a monthly basis for sure. And as well as we have our Euphoria season 2 review coming up with the lovely AMX NDA reviews. Amanda, she'll be joining us on that. We'll be reviewing that over the weekend. So just definitely follow us on Twitter at Film Optix. That's Optix with an X, to find out when that's going to be released. That's pretty much where we do all of our updates. We are on Instagram, but that's more so of a announcement page at this point, just because so busy with everything. And of course, we have our Turning Red review that will be coming up soon as well. But the main thing I want everyone to let them know is make sure to share this episode with a friend, whether it be with your mother, your brother, your lover, whoever it may be. Make sure to share a episode of the Film Optix podcast with a film fan in need. And of course, you can make sure to like and rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for you guys. We have a few giveaways we're going to be doing here soon within the month of March. Might be dealing with the Hunger Games. I don't know. We'll see. Just definitely keep a lookout for that. Might be giving away some digital goodies for that. In celebration of the 10-year anniversary of the Hunger Games. But other than that, again, Dibes, thank you so much for coming on. Love to have you on again. We got a lot of content this year, man. A lot of fantasy content coming our way. We got Lord of the Rings, we got Game of Thrones. Have you been watching Vox Machina, Legend of Vox Machina?
Did you see that trailer reaction where I just started crying?
Yeah. It looks so beautiful. For Lord of the Rings, I'm very excited. Definitely check out Legend of Vox Machina if you haven't already. What is it? I don't even know what it is. It's honestly, just watch it. I can't even explain it, but it's really good. I'm only on episode 2, but I am liking it a lot. It's not like the standard, like there's no like chosen one. It's I guess if I were to explain it, it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, but with a misfit of like fantasy characters. Okay. Yeah, that sounds right up my alley. Yeah. So it's good stuff. We got some Last of Us voice actors in there as well. So cool. There'll be a lot of stuff. Alcy Johnson, as well as a few others. But let's close on out here. Again, everyone, thank you so much for, if you made it this long, congratulations. You made it through all of our Batman review goodies. Again, we have a lot of things coming up in the podcast, so make sure to follow us on Twitter to stay up to date with all that stuff. So let's close on out of here. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Devin Dives. My name is Christian. We'll see you guys in Gotham.